Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy, Sports and Fitness Rants? I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel, man. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting the history, guys. And in this video, I want to talk about some crazy comments that some fool Dan Le Batard. These people are idiots. These people in the media are a joke, man. An absolute joke, man. And this man, I saw an article yesterday with Dan Le Batard saying that he can make an argument, a case for Nikola Jokic over Michael Jordan as the greatest player of all time, guys. The greatest player of all time. Not top 10, top 5, the greatest center, the greatest player in the history of the game. Dan Le Batard made that argument in this clip that I saw, man. But once again, when these guys try to explain their opinion, let's say, they can't do it. I tell you, they can never explain this stuff. They can never break it down and give you the info so that you can see what they're seeing. They can't do it. And Dan Le Batard's the latest example of this. Another clown out here in the media that has his own show. How he has his own show, I don't know. Why this man's talking basketball, I don't know. Here's no damn thing. You can make an argument for Nikola Jokic, the greatest player of all time, over Michael Jordan. It's an absolute joke. We're going to talk about this video, guys. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly humbled, man. Much respect to all you guys out there, man. The true basketball fans, man, are standing up, man. And we must continue to set the record straight on fools like this Dan Le Batard, man. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I saw this article yesterday with Dan Le Batard talking about how, and I think he was talking on his show. I think the article was on Basketball Network or something like that. I don't know. If you guys Google Dan Le Batard, says Nikola Jokic is greater than Michael Jordan, you'll see the article. It'll come up. And in this article, Dan Le Batard says that he can make an argument that Nikola Jokic is the greatest basketball player of all time over Michael Jordan, over LeBron James. I don't know why he put LeBron James in there. Once again, they always got to put LeBron James like he's the next guy after Michael Jordan, man. It's an absolute joke. In this video, we're going to focus on Michael Jordan. Because if you want to make an argument for Nikola Jokic over LeBron James, you might be able to do that. You might be able to do that. But there's no argument for Nikola Jokic over Michael Jordan, man. And once again, someone like Dan Le Batard exposed himself as not keeping the integrity, not educating people out there. Dan Le Batard, how are you educating any of the NBA fans or true basketball fans out there, people who enjoy basketball, enjoy the NBA? How are you educating them by giving them this idea that you can make an argument for Nikola Jokic over Michael Jordan? Because when someone says that, oh, I can make an argument, I could, come up with X, Y, Z and really give you the information as to why Nikola Jokic or how Nikola Jokic is greater than Michael Jordan, how he could be recognized as the greatest basketball player of all time. When you say something like that, and that means that you have to back it up. You have to go out there and then back it up, explain it. And this is where I tell you they lose us. They lose themselves. These guys will make a statement. Oh, LeBron James been past Jordan. Or LeBron James been past Larry Bird. Or this guy's not better than this guy. Or they'll just say something so matter-of-factly, oh, I can make an argument for Nikola Jokic over Michael Jordan. And then I want to read the rest of the article because I'm like, I want to really hear what this guy, what his argument is. What could you possibly say that would lead anyone to believe that Nikola Jokic is anywhere close to Michael Jordan, guys? Anywhere close to like Michael Jordan, let alone the greatest player of all time. Like I said, even if you don't think Michael Jordan's greatest of all time is irrelevant, he's nowhere close to Michael Jordan, and he's nowhere close to the greatest player of all time. I told you right now, Nikola Jokic is barely a top 10 center, in my opinion, all time, man. He could make an argument he's not even a top 10 center in NBA's history, man. I mean, when you talk about some of the great big men in the history of the game, man, once again, Nikola Jokic ain't going against no one in this era. Nobody, man. So give me Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson, Moses Malone. I'll take those guys over Nikola Jokic. I don't know, that's what, 6, 7 guys? I don't even know the top of my head. Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal. I'll take those guys over Nikola Jokic, man. Once again, those guys were going against each other. They were battling against each other. Right? How about other guys like Walt Bellamy or Bill Walton, whose career was cut short due to horrific injuries to his feet and things of that nature? What about those guys? What about guys like Wes Unseld or Elvin Hayes? Right? What about guys like George Mikan? Is he a greater player than Nikola Jokic? So once again, we can make an argument and debate if Nikola Jokic is even a top 10 center, let alone the greatest player of all time, guys. And those are the facts there. If you're being honest and you understand the history of the game, then you can make arguments against a lot of these other guys, just centers. way better than Nikola Jokic because they did other things on the court at a high level. And once again, they were going against each other. The level of competition was fierce for a lot of those guys, man. Fierce. And that's the problem with Nikola Jokic. It's not his fault he plays in this weak era of NBA, but this is how we must judge him. We must judge him. We can't just judge LeBron James and say it's a weak era for LeBron James. It's Nikola Jokic is playing in the same era. And this is the weakest era for big men. There are no big men in the NBA. There hasn't been legit big men in the NBA since guys like Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan. And, these guys retired from the game. There are no legit big men anymore, man. There are none. Dwight Howard's gone. There's none of these guys down there anymore, right? So this is what we left. I talked about in the video today. So Dan Le Batard says this in his article. As I'm reading through the article, I want to see what he has to say. And, of course, what did Dan Le Batard go to, guys? And I'm going to post a screenshot of the clip so you guys can see what I'm saying. You guys can read what he said. But what did he do? He based it off of stats. Everything goes back to stats, man. I'm so tired of hearing about statistics. That's why anyone that talks statistics to me, you lose a little bit of respect for me. Because statistics do not tell anything. They don't tell you nothing, guys. They tell you nothing. They give you a basic view of what a player might be, what he might be. If you see someone's stats and you're like, damn, this guy's a hellified rebounder based off of his stats, or this guy's a hellified scorer based off his stats, but that does not necessarily make you the greatest scorer or the greatest rebounder because of the stats that you put up in your era. Every era is a little bit different, guys, and we've talked about over the last 10 years, 15 years, the NBA's been a joke, man. It's an absolute joke. So when Dan Le Batard says, oh, you look at his statistical dominance, he's saying that no one's done this in the history of the game. Yeah, so what you're doing is exposing that notion, Dan Le Batard. Why do you think no one's been doing this in the history of the game? No one's been able to do these numbers because they're not as great as Nikola Jokic? No, because the numbers are inflated in this era. It's the same thing in the NFL. You think that all these guys that are throwing for 4,000, 5,000 yards in a season, they're greater than some of the guys in the back that never even sniffed a 4,000 or 5,000 yard passing season in their career? Oh, look at the numbers those guys are putting up versus the guys in the 70s and the 80s and 90s NFL. Once again, the game is different. All the passing these guys do now, all these quarterbacks, even the mediocre quarterbacks, are throwing for 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 yards now. It's insane for anyone to think or to judge players based off stats and make your opinion based off the stats. That can't be it. And that's what Dan Le Batard went to. Because Dan Le Batard don't know the game of basketball. He don't know the historical perspective. He probably started watching the NBA around 2010. These guys are not fans of basketball, man. They don't know the game. These guys were not watching sports in the 80s and the 90s. I don't give a damn how old these guys are. I'm telling you right now, when you listen to these guys speak, I can tell that they did not watch this stuff. They didn't watch it. If you watch the games, not just looked at stats or highlights, because back in the day, you'd actually watch the games. There was no internet or computers or laptops or cell phones, right? A lot of us only had one TVs in our homes. Once again, sports was on TV. You watched it. You had to watch the games. These guys did not watch the games, man. So they think everything is based off of stats. That's how they talk basketball. They talk stats. That's not basketball. If you just talk stats, you don't know the game. I don't talk stats on this channel. I give you guys numbers to highlight something that I'm telling you. To highlight it. Not to give you the facts or to break it down off of stats. I'm breaking the game down. I'm telling you what these guys did or did not do. And I base it off of what I watched them do or not do on the court. I knew their roles. I knew their games that they played because I watched them play those games. I knew how tough the era was because I watched these guys bang around. I watched these guys dive on the floor for loose balls. I watched these guys show up to work every single night. I'm not making this up. When I read off how many times these guys played 80, 82 games, it's not a coincidence when I tell you these guys show up to work. I know they did because I watched them play. They were there. These guys are not there. So Dan Le Batard talks about stats. Oh, Nikola Jokic, statistical arguments. This is what Scap does a lot. This is what bothers me about Scap with Nikola Jokic. He loves to talk about stats and how, oh, Nikola Jokic, the first player to lead the league on the postseason in points, rebounds, and assists. Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think he was the first player to do that? Because he plays in an era where there are no guys dominating any statistical category. Once again, Nikola Jokic plays in a system where he dominates the basketball. So he's allowed to get a lot of these assists, get some of these rebounds. What other rebounds does he play with on his team? He's the best rebounder on his team. He's the guy that's dominating the basketball on his team. He's the one taking the most shots on his team. They're letting Nikola Jokic scoring all his points, but he don't take no shots. The man takes 21 shots a game. 21 shots a game. That man's shooting the damn ball, right? He's allowed to dominate the basketball in a way that a lot of these other centers, they didn't play the game. The game was not played that way, man. So, oh, he's a better passer than this guy. Oh, why? Because he has more assists, and he's just able to distribute the ball in the weakest era. No defense being played. How many assists would he have in the 90s when they counted him the right way? How great would his passes look if he's going against David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Robert Parrish, Moses Malone, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Mark Eaton, Alonzo Mourning, Shaquille O'Neal, Dikembe Mutombo. He's going against that lineup every single night. You're playing one of those guys, man. You're going against Brad Daugherty or Rick Smits or Ronnie Cycli or Vlade Diva. You're going against somebody that does something out there. You're not going to be able to make all these fancy passes and have all this freedom of movement. It's not going to happen, man. So once again, when Dan Le Batard talks about the statistics, and that's why he could make an argument for him greater than Michael Jordan, what stats are we talking about here? Nikola Jokic has never led the league in any statistical category, guys. He's never led the league in rebounding. He's never led the league in block shots or steals or scoring or assists. He might have been close, but he never led the league. Never once. Never played 82 games in a season, Nikola Jokic. Never once. So once again, man, miss me with this stats. Miss me with this, Dan Le Batard. You sound ridiculous. Once again, you expose yourself as not knowing the game and not understanding how to rank and judge players, man. How to really have an opinion. He'll talk about, oh, you know, no one's ever done this in the history of the game, the stats, right? And I told you guys, if that's your opinion, that you think Nikola Jokic is this great player, whatever the case may be, that's fine. You can have your opinion. But I told you, you must be able to break it down. You must be able to give us the info, the facts, so that we can see what you're seeing, so that we can understand how you came to this conclusion. When you say, oh, he's got the greatest statistical dominance in the history of the game, that's not saying anything. We're talking about how weak the era of NBA is. So Dan Le Batard's not going to tell you the facts about how weak this era of NBA is, how stats are being inflated, right? Assist numbers, how rebounds are so easy to come by in this era because guys are chugging up 40, 53s a game and they're missing all these shots. They're not shooting high percentage shots. Their rebounds fly all over the place. No one's battling down low for rebounds. Nikola Jokic ain't battling against legit centers for rebounds every night. These stats are fraudulent. Once again, his points, his scoring is against who? Against what? The weakest, softest era in the history of the game. How can you be the greatest player of all time when you play in the weakest era? Dan Le Batard won't talk about this. It literally doesn't make any sense, guys. How could you be the greatest player when you play in the weakest era? In the weakest era. Bill Russell was going against Wilt Chamberlain and Nate Thurman and Willis Reed and Walt Bellamy. They was going against these guys, man. They were battling against each other every single night. Bob Pettit, Dolph Shays. I mean, what are we saying here, man? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was battling against Dave Cowens. He's battling against Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes and Willis Reed. I mean, Moses Malone. Hakeem Olajuwon was going against Moses Malone and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Patrick Ewing and David Robinson and Shaquille O'Neal. Nikola Jokic faced Bam Adebayo in the NBA Finals, guys. Bam Adebayo. Can you guys name me the center that he went against in that run to the finals? Who did he go against? I'm trying to figure it out. Nurkic? I don't even know. Bam Adebayo in the final, who missed, what, 2 games? No, did he miss any games in that finals? I don't know if he missed any games in that finals. But that's your competition. Bam Adebayo's like 6'8", guys. Playing center. 6'8", 6'9", that's the center. That's Nikola Jokic stiff competition down low in the finals. Hakeem Olajuwon had to go against Shaq. Shaq had to go against Hakeem. Kareem was battling Moses Malone. Hakeem Olajuwon, Dave Cowens, Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes, Wilt Chamberlain, Willis Reed. I mean, these guys were battling against each other. They had to earn it out there. Nikola Jokic ain't had no competition like that. So Dan Le Batard won't mention this in the article. He won't talk about, hey, man, Nikola Jokic ain't really been going against nobody. But that's okay. All of his statistical dominance shows he's the greatest player of all time. I can make that argument. So you say you can make the argument, then you don't make the argument. Excuse me for a second, guys. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. The opinions, they'll tell you one thing, but they can't make the argument for it. So he says, yeah, I can make the, and the article goes, yeah, I can make the argument, and I know you guys are not going to give me any pushback on this. You guys won't be able to argue against it because Nikola Jokic has the statistical dominance that we've never seen in the history of the game. And then they start talking about the PER numbers, PER, because now Nikola Jokic, I believe, is #1 all time in PER. In PER, have you guys ever heard anyone say this guy's the greatest player of all time because of PER? Once again, I didn't even know what PER was until like a couple of years ago. No one ever talked about PER when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s. Once again, PER excludes guys like Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell because they don't include the steals and the blocks with those guys, right? So really, Nikola Jokic would have nowhere near. See, and this is what I'm telling you. Dan Le Batard doesn't know the history of the game. He's not giving you he's not educating you. When they talk about PER in the clip, and they talk about PER in the article, the way that they're making it seem is that PER includes all the players in NBA's history. It excludes guys like Will Chamberlain and a lot of these other guys that played in those early years where they weren't tracking offensive rebounds or steals or blocks or turnovers. They weren't tracking any of this stuff. So I'm pretty sure we can all probably agree that Will Chamberlain would have by far and away the greatest PER in NBA's history because of the dominance that he had on both sides of the ball. They said this man was averaging like 8 blocks a game some of these seasons. I mean, that's insane, man, what Will Chamberlain was doing, scoring the ball, rebounding the ball, playing defense. Nikola Jokic can't sniff this stuff. He can't sniff it, man. Nikola Jokic going against Will Chamberlain in the 60s, man, it would be a nightmare for someone like him. He's not an athletic guy. He has no athleticism, Nikola Jokic. So that's going to hurt him in other eras. In this era, you don't need athleticism to be good because the standard's been lowered. Think about it. If you're allowed to manipulate the basketball, dribble however you want to dribble, travel, take as many steps as you want to do, and then the game is not as physical, the defense is not being played like that, then really what's the standard being held out there? Really, what is it being held? Will Chamberlain, these guys, they had a higher standard. They were going against stiffer competition, man. So for me, Nikola Jokic would not be able to dominate or do any of this stuff if he was playing against some of these other guys. And I think we all agree on this. That's the problem for these guys today in this era. It's just not the same. The level of skills and all these things, it's not the same, guys. These guys back in the day, they were more athletic, but they also had fundamentals, right? These guys learned the game. These guys today, they're not as athletic because you're allowed to do whatever you want. You think Luka Doncic is going to be as dominant or as effective in the 80s and the 90s when guys are allowed to use their physicality against him? It's going to take away. He don't have the athleticism, right, to make up for a lot of this stuff. What did I tell you guys? Physicality, it neutralizes your athleticism. That's what it does, right, to a degree. So this is why teams had to use physicality against Michael Jordan, right? They used the physical game, the style of play, to neutralize the advantages that Michael Jordan had athletically, right? So when we talk about these guys today, they don't have to necessarily lean on the athleticism because the game is so soft. Whereas back in the day, your athleticism helped you get past some of this physicality, right? So Michael Jordan could use his quickness to get past guys or get around them or go over them back in them days, right? Because the athleticism of the game. Will Chamberlain, once again, he wasn't allowed to use his physicality in the era that he played in, but he was still an all-world athlete that these guys today couldn't match up with. He just wouldn't be able to do. When I talk about guys being athletic and helping you back in them days, just think about the 90s, for example. Do you guys really believe that Nikola Jokic would be able to keep up with the up and down game of some of those big men? Do you think he's going to be able to get up and down the court with David Robinson or Hakeem Olajuwon or Alonzo Mourning or some of these other guys, man, that can get up and down the court fast? That's what they did. The big men had to go from block to block back in the day. Now the game is played from three-point line to three-point line, whereas back in the day it was played from baseline to baseline. The big men ran from block to block. Nikola Jokic, he was not going to have the athleticism night in and night out, play after play, to go up and down the court from block to block and beat Patrick Ewing to the spot, and beat David Robinson to that spot, beat Hakeem Olajuwon to that spot, beat Dikembe Mutombo or Shaquille O'Neal to those spots. So they're going to beat him down the court, either get an alley-oop dunk, or they're going to get great post-up position deep on the block against him. Because every single night you're going against some of these guys who are crazy athletes, man. And once again, the game is physical. So the advantages that he has today, because the standard is so low, he won't have those advantages in the other eras. But Dan Le Batard won't tell you that. So they'll talk about the PR numbers as if that's the end-all, be-all. Oh, my God, Nikola Jokic, number one in PR. No one's impressed with that. Once again, that doesn't mean anything. It literally means nothing, guys. The PER excludes a lot of all-time greats. These analytics, right? You hear a lot of people talk about analytics. Analytics is nothing, guys. These advanced analytics, man, this don't tell you nothing about the game. You have to watch the game and know the game. Dan Le Batard did not watch the game. He don't know the game. He couldn't break down the game to you. So he'll tell you that Nikola Jokic is greater than Michael Jordan based off of stats. Michael Jordan's competition alone is way superior to Nikola Jokic by far. Michael Jordan's teams are greater. I mean, I don't even understand how we even having this. I have to make a video about this. This is actually like laughable. And once again, this is cringe as hell for Dan Le Batard to be on a platform on how these guys, they have their own show, these guys. and to say, oh, I can make an argument that Nikola Jokic is greater than Michael Jordan. He's the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. I told you, Nikola Jokic is nowhere close to the greatest of all time, guys. Nowhere close to that, man. This man's been in the league, I believe, 10 or 11 seasons, so he still has a lot more of his career to play out. But the man's got 3 MVPs and 1 championship. That's nowhere close to Michael Jordan, guys. And once again, these MVPs, they're fraudulent to me, man. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the MVPs or he didn't earn them, but I told you, he's not winning MVPs in the 90s, guys. There's no way Nikola Jokic is winning MVPs in that era because he's not going to be putting up the stats in those eras. He's literally getting MVPs off of stats. Not winning. His team is not dominating the league. They're not winning 60, 65 games, the Nuggets, and he's leading them all these wins, and they're making runs to the NBA Finals every other year. They've been to 1 NBA Finals, and they played against the weakest team probably in NBA Finals history. You played against the 2023 Miami Heat. I'm not impressed with that team. The only team weaker than that might have been the 2020 Miami Heat with all the injuries that they had. I'm not impressed with that, man. 1 title run. So all the statistical dominance, once again, they keep talking about the statistical dominance of Nikola Jokic, but it hasn't amounted to wins. Once again, they're not winning 60, 65 games in a season. They're not always the number 1 seed. These guys are never that team. But he still managed to get all these MVP awards. And why is that? Because you're going against who? Luka Doncic? Joel Embiid? Giannis? SGA? This is your competition. And that's not a knock on these guys. But that's not the same as going against Michael Jordan or against Larry Bird or Magic Johnson or Moses Malone or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon for MVPs. It's not the same competition, guys. Ain't the same as going against Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell or Oscar Robinson, Jerry West. It's not the same kind of competition, man. It's completely different. But you're going to make an argument over stats? Stats. Over Michael Jordan or the greatest of all time over stats. That don't make no sense. That's why I tell you these guys get exposed, man. He couldn't break it down and tell you, oh, Nikola Jokic is the greatest of all time because he has 4 championships, 4 finals MVPs. He's got 3 MVPs. He led the league in this. His team is always one of the top teams. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. None of that. What does Nikola Jokic do that's all-time great? And his position. You want to say he's maybe the best passer at the center position? Why? Based off of what? Based off of stats? Or based off of what you watch, some of the passes that he makes? There have been some great passing big men. Arvydas Sabonis, Vlade Divac. Shaquille O'Neal was actually a really good passer. Brad Daugherty was an amazing passer. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a really good passer. I mean, some of these guys could pass the ball. The thing is, they did not dominate the basketball to pass. They posted up. They rebounded. They played defense. That's what big men did. Nikola Jokic puts up the numbers he does in a weak era, and he's allowed to dominate the basketball. That's great for him. He's got some skills, but is he more skilled than Hakeem Olajuwon? Is he really more skilled than a lot of these guys? David Robinson? These guys had two-way skills on both sides of the ball. To me, Nikola Jokic's post-up game is not as great as some of those guys' post-up game. And once again, you're posting up who? Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ivica Zubac, Isaiah Hartenstein? Who are you going against? Joel Embiid? These guys are never on the court, man. They're never on the court. There is no competition. There's no way in hell you can make an argument for Nikola Jokic over Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time. For him to even make that statement is the problem that we have right now. These guys have no integrity, no honor for you to once again make a stupid statement that you cannot back up. There is no argument. There's nothing to back that statement up. There's no stats. There's nothing that you could base that's tangible that leads you to believe that Nikola Jokic is anywhere close to Michael Jordan, man. This is what we're doing now? Nikola Jokic's greatest of all time? Greater than Michael Jordan? I can't stand Nikola Jokic fans. You guys have gone over the deep end, man. Way off the deep end. This is ridiculous, man, for this man, Dan Le Batard, to say. Once again, look who it is, Dan Le Batard. Who's Dan Le Batard? A guy who makes money, who has his own platform, doesn't know a damn thing about the game. He's up there with the guys like Nick Wright and the Shannon Sharps. These guys are not educating you. The PR numbers don't mean nothing, man. That doesn't make you the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan is recognized as the greatest of all time, not just because of his stats. The stats are a small part of Michael Jordan's resume and his career. A small part of it, man. A very small part. Michael Jordan's on-court game, right? His on-court game is what led him to become the greatest of all time, because his on-court game was so dominant on both sides that it showed up, and the evidence is there. 2 3-peats. 5 MVPs, 6 finals MVPs, never played in the game 7. Leading the league in scoring 7 straight seasons, 10 times overall. 3 times lead the league in steals. All these records, playoff scoring, galvanizing the team, doing more with less. Nikola Jokic is touted as this great statistical player and that he never has the help of so many other all-time great players. But if he's so great and so dominant, then why cannot he carry these guys to wins? Why isn't the team not winning more? And what do they say? Oh, he don't have the help. This guy's this guy's that. Once again, you're making an excuse for the greatest player of all time. They don't need excuses. These guys are supposed to be the great players. They don't need excuses made for them. Once again, who did Nikola Jokic beat in the way to this finals? The Denver Nuggets beat nobody. They did not even beat a single 50-win team. Wake me up when Michael Jordan didn't have to play a 50-win team in his route to a championship. It's a joke. Michael Jordan played against more 60-win teams and beat more 60-win teams on the Bulls than any other team in history, guys. Any other player in history. Nikola Jokic ain't sniffing 60-win games or 60-win teams. He's not even facing 50-win teams. But Dan Le Batard's going to say that guy's the greatest of all time. An absolute joke. And this is why these guys have no credibility, man. And they have no cachet. No one wants to listen to these clowns. Like I said, the fact that I have to make a video about this is embarrassing. It's sad for the NBA, for this man to say that I can make an argument and then all you say is, oh, his statistical dominance is the greatest in history. What? It is? I don't see it, guys. Once again, man, it's laughable for anyone to think Nikola Jokic is close to Michael Jordan, man. Anyone to think that. He's miles away from Michael Jordan. Like I told you, you can make an argument Nikola Jokic is not even a top 10 center of all time, guys. When you're talking about some of the great centers, man, that were going against each other. I mean, just think about it, guys. He's just not there with them dudes, man. It's not because of him. It's because of the era he plays in. It's not his fault, but we got to keep the energy the same, guys. He plays in the weakest era of all time, the smallest era of all time. And these are the facts, man. Nikola Jokic is nowhere close to Michael Jordan. He's nowhere close to the greatest player of all time, guys. And I think a lot of you guys understand that and know that. Dan Le Batard, you sound ridiculous. Once again, you've lost all respect. You lost all credibility, man. He never really had any credibility anyway. But now, thank you for exposing yourself once again. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.